name is Megan Bassett, and I'm going to be telling you about my classroom management plan. I teach juniors and seniors in forensic science. And so, in doing the tasks along the way to build up to this culminating project, I've kind of had an epiphany that compared to me, previous teachers have a challenging job in preparing students for classroom procedures so that by the time they get to me, everything's all ironed out and pretty easy for me. Um, for example, taking tests, it's just ingrained in students to be respectful and be quiet during tests. Um, to respect other students and stuff like that. So anyway, I've just developed an appreciation for teachers of earlier grades. So the slide on here is showing some of the things that are valuable to me within my classroom. Mutual respect, so respecting students and expecting them to respect in kind is kind of how I function in my classroom. Just acknowledging that students are actual people and they have feelings, and the way that they deal with things is not going to be the same way that we would because their brains aren't fully developed yet. Um, because my class is so hands-on and lab intensive, it's really important for my students to get comfortable with each other. So teamwork is really important. I group students together and try to keep them in the same groups for the duration of the year because I found that a lot of times, because my class is an elective and I know I might be biased, but I think forensic science is interesting. So I think some kids take it because they're interested, but they might be super shy or super introverted. So by keeping them in groups, they are able to build confidence and comfort with the students in their little lab family, and then they're more likely to participate. And I've noticed that as the year goes on, they do get more and more comfortable and more engaged. So it has paid off that I do that. I've noticed that empathy over the past few years has rapidly been declining. So I've been trying to instill empathy in my students. And because I have older students, I like to give them choices, which you'll see in my procedures, my classroom procedures. And I do give them a degree of independence to do what they need to do without having to report to me and ask me for every little thing. And a big quote that's important to me is to get comfortable being uncomfortable because nobody's going to change or grow or improve if you just stagnate in your position wherever you're comfortable. Okay, so I made 5 really basic class rules that you can see here. And right off the bat, on the first day, I'm pretty strict about the one that's in yellow here, be on time and be prepared. I don't mark them tardy, of course, for the first few days because kids have to learn where their schedules take them. Plus, there's changes and stuff like that. But I do make it very clear that being in class on time is important. As soon as kids come in, they put their phone in an assigned pocket. That is how I take attendance. And then that way I can start class immediately. So that shows respect to the students who came in to class on time and, got their materials out and everything. And it also shows that, um, or not shows, but it kind of causes them to respect my time because I'm ready to start. And so I'm going to start as soon as when the bell rings, when everybody's seated. The move with purpose, I put that in there because there's certain things around my room, with it being a lab room, and I've got like community class supplies and like a sign out sheet with hall passes and stuff like that. So students, if I'm not directly instructing, teaching, or giving directions, the kids are either doing labs or working independently or working on something. As long as I'm not talking to the whole class, they are welcome to quietly get up and take care of whatever they need. They know if a restroom pass is not available, then they need to wait till somebody returns and then they can get it. If they need supplies from the community supply section, they can go get what they need. They don't need to create a ruckus. And I've just found that students do it quietly, just like they would do if they were home alone, just get up and do what needs to be done without distracting others. And I mean, that's age appropriate for 16, 17, 18-year olds. Um, the technology piece is pretty significantly hinged off of the use of phones. And the past 2 years, I've taken up phones at the start of class with the promise that the last minute or two of class, I let them get their phone as they're packing up. And I've really had no problem because they know that they'll have a minute or two before the end of class to catch up on all their missed texts and stuff like that. But the biggest thing I've noticed is that people are looking at me when I'm giving whole group instruction as opposed to looking down at their laps, at their phones that they think are hidden but aren't really. So it's made a massive difference in student achievement as well as attention. Okay, so these are some of the procedures that I've picked out that I think are a little bit different because my kids are older. Like I already mentioned, using the restroom, they just need to go. If it's an emergency, they can go. If I'm teaching the whole group, sorry, if I'm talking to the whole group and they feel uncomfortable telling me, then they can just tell the neighbor next to them, hey, I need to go to the bathroom, I'm going to be sick or whatever. And then the kids will let me know. Um, but otherwise, if I'm not teaching, they're welcome to go get up, get the hall pass, sign it on the clipboard, and it's worked really well the past few years. The supplies, I have community supplies. You can see all the different things that I have listed here, students have available to them. And all that I really ask is that they put it back the way that they found it so that subsequent classes have access as well. Um, when they come in the classroom, I expect them to, I always have something on the board, turn to this page or get this paper off of the front table, grab a ruler, something. There's always something for them to do so that there's purpose right off the bat. And of course, their phone needs to be put up as well. I've also learned to check phones because students will keep older phones and use them as little burner phones that they'll put in as placeholders. So I've learned a lesson from that to double check. And then for emergency and safety protocol, I'm not sure how it is in other schools, but we do not allow any of the exterior doors to be open at all by students under any circumstance, even if you think you know somebody. And I'm just with everything that happened with Appalachia and stuff, I'm really, really nervous. So I have an exterior door in my classroom, and I am very hardcore about them not opening that door to anybody. Um, if we're going outside to do lab stuff, I'm usually standing right in that doorway so that I can open it because it does automatically lock. Same thing with the hallway door to my classroom. I'm the only one who will open it. I can see who's out there and determine if it's appropriate to open the door. And then I'm pretty sure all schools have put in place where if the fire alarm goes off, you don't leave immediately. You wait until you hear an announcement stating that it is a fire drill or that it's an actual fire. Okay, and then this here lists my consequences in order. So I'm not going to read all over all of them, but initially I start off with something really basic, eye contact, a funny face that indicates that I'm not super happy about what they're doing, a one-on-one discussion, trying to give the kids some wiggle room and kind of figuring out what my expectations are. For step 3, if the issue is that the child, the student is being disruptive or distracting other people or themselves, then I'll switch seats. If that's not applicable, then I'll have them write down a couple reasons why their behavior is not the best choice for our classroom. And then I'll ask them to turn it into me the next day, and that gives them some time to think about it, and if they're frustrated, it gives them some time to pause and cool off before they, um, write down what their thoughts are on the issue. Then I'll progress to parent contact, detention, and if needed, administrative referral. I try to avoid that unless it's something super serious like violence or um, drugs, which that's not been an issue in my classroom. I am strict about skipping my class only because my students drive and I feel like I'm responsible for them if they're supposed to be in my class and they're on the road. If something happens, I don't want to be held responsible. And I always get the argument that they won't get in an accident, but I always tell them people don't plan on getting in accidents. That's why they're called accidents. I've also listed for each one a little quote about what I might say that's kind of like a grace-based response or explanation for why I've instituted the consequences. This would be my ideal class setup. Unfortunately, I have lab tables that jut into the dead center of the room, and kids are forced to sit at them on stools all day, which isn't the best. But I only have them for a little bit less than an hour so they can transition to a room that has backs. A lot of times my kids will stand up or maybe sit on the floor, and I encourage that because if you're comfortable, you're more likely to stay on task, getting your learning activity completed. But ideally, I would have tables that I could, or desks that I could rearrange if I want to put them in rows. I like to have students work in clusters. I would love to have the lab table along the perimeter, lab bench along the perimeter of the room because that keeps contaminants separate, and you can have your lab area, you can have your work area. I would love to have space for you know special seating, an area like a little nook if students want to be alone, but it's still visible to the teacher. A more open area if kids want to be more relaxed, maybe sit on beanbag chairs on the floor, lay on their stomach, write on clipboards. So this would be ideal. I would still keep my community class supplies available to them. Um, and then in my classroom and in my ideal classroom, I would still have an area where they would turn in all of their work. And that was one of the procedures that I did not include, but I have one black basket on my front table that all work goes in. Um, if it's stuff that you're turning in class as you finish, if it's something that you're turning in because you were absent, or if it's makeup work that you didn't turn in, everything goes in that black basket, only the black basket. And then that way students are guaranteed to have the work checked because it's in one spot. If I have multiple spots, the odds of things getting confused or lost increase. And then for my behavior plan, we're bringing PBIS, positive behavior intervention system, into our school this fall. So I've been on the team that was building it this year, and our school is Raiders, and so we thought that we would like to do Raider Pride. And so we sent out a few options for students to choose what the acronym for Pride would stand for. And so here you can see what some of the results were. We have about 2,500 students, and we had about 320 kids reply, which actually isn't too bad considering. And so this is what we ended up with based off of what students and teachers selected. The P stands for purpose, then respect, integrity, determination, and empathy. So these will be made into little posters that will be put around the school. Within the classroom, this part here to the right will be blank, and then teachers will put in their own little bullets of expectations for their own classroom. So on the right, I put down what I would put in there for my bullets. To me, keeping things super simple is the best option. In fact, one thing I kept saying on the PBIS team is I had to keep reiterating that we've got to keep things super simple. And when people get excited and try to snowball into something extravagant and really cool, it's less likely to obtain buy-in. So keeping things simple is best. So that's kind of what I've done here. And admittedly, I do have older students who can probably read a little bit more into it than younger students, but I do reiterate what my expectations are pretty clearly. So going back for the rewards, we also surveyed the students. So you can see here, the ones down here that have like point percentage are things that students filled in and what they would like. Becoming principal for a day, which is cute. A day off of school, cute. Would love to offer that, but can't. But anyway, you could see like food, snacks, and drinks were the number one choice. These were the choices that we actually gave them. Erasing a tardy, a field day, which we plan on doing at the end of the semester as just a kind of acknowledgement for all the kids that have a very small number of PBIS points, just to kind of get their buy-in for the first year. So anyway, you can see some of the things that the students chose as what they would like as rewards. And within my classroom, what I thought of And then we haven't done the PBIS system yet, so this is just me brainstorming. Since I only have the kids for about an hour a day, I feel like doing a daily acknowledgement would be challenging, because I've got like 5 kids, so that would be like, you know, 100 and I'm sorry, 5 classes, like 150 plus students. So if I did it per week, you know, if they've got maybe 4 points, if you get at least a point a day for 4 days, you know, they could get a small candy. Maybe they could choose a song for our playlist that plays during independent work time. A lot of the kids love to have a little bit of attention so they can show off a talent. They juggle. A lot of the kids are trying to juggle lately. A lot of kids love drawing on the board with Expo. You know, just silly stuff that is like a little privilege and a little way to leave their mark in the classroom for other people to see. And then I could also do like a raffle. Dairy Queen near us is good about donating coupons for things like blizzards and stuff like that. I've also had, sometimes I'll do like little walk around with a basket with candy and McDonald's Happy Meal toys and stuff like that, just random silly things, and the kids oftentimes will choose the Happy Meal toy over candy, so stuff like that for a weekly raffle could also be cute. Um, and then school-wide, we're these are some of the things that we have talked about. The points are just tentative right now, but you can get a general idea of what we're looking at. So how would students earn points? Well, within my class, I initially am going to start out being very free with the points. If the students put the phones in the holder without reminder, as soon as they walk in, they're getting the points. If they have their stuff out on their desk, as I've requested on the smart board, points. Individually, I'm looking for positivity. I'm looking for students who demonstrate resilience and grit, moving out of their comfort zone, kids helping other kids, helping me, helping teachers. Those kind of things will earn points. As the year goes on, the phone and preparation will become intermittent, but that's just a general idea. And then for tracking and distributing rewards, we have an app that is linked to our learning management system and our Infinite Campus and stuff like that. So I can go in and do, if everybody in the class puts their phone up, everybody will get a point, for example. And kids will have the app on their phone. So at the end of class, they can look and see, oh, Miss Bassett gave me a point because I brought my phone up. And then when I take up their points for, I shouldn't say take up, but when I look at their points for them to get an acknowledgement at the end of the week, I'm not going to take away points from what they can turn in for school wide, but they can kind of double dip on the points in my class. But what the school is planning on doing is on every other Wednesday, the students in our special ed department are going to open like a little store, and we're going to do like rolling by grades, like well, seniors, juniors, sophomores, and freshmen can go and cash in their points for different things. And we're even incorporating teachers into the reward system too. So that's kind of fun. If you guys do PBIS at your school, that hopefully you guys do that too, because I thought that was a really cool idea. And that's all that I have. So hopefully you have some ideas after seeing what I have done, and I look forward to seeing what you guys have done.